Yo, how's everybody doing? Hope everybody's having an amazing day. I am here doing another Snapper Island sit down. Haven't done one in a while, and I'm actually here with a guest that I've been trying to get on for a hot minute, actually. I'm here with one half of the Wano report, Mr. Morj. If y'all
What's
don't know
going
who
on,
he
everyone?
if you don't know who Mr. Morj is and you're on this channel, that makes absolutely no sense. You need to get your priorities together. Uh, but this one's not gonna go too long. Morge is a busy man, and I need to get some
Okay.
sleep. I'm fresh off of work, so so we only have like three topics today. Uh, Yamato versus Carrot, the obviously the new crew member discussion. One of Morge's favorite topics, the raid, whether it'll fail, how do you think it'll progress, how will it end, and post Wano, things like that, and obviously, of course, how we like to end it all, how we like to end it in every Sniper Island sit down. Next arc predictions. Makina said ask him if he still thinks the raid will fail. That's one of the topics. Thank you for asking. Thank you for participating in the chat. But yeah, Morge, I know you have a video series on a couple characters in the series and their potential for joining the Straw Hats. I remember seeing one about Smoker. I believe you had one about Carrot. I can't not 100%
Yep.
sure. Yeah, you do. The one that I disagree with the most, I was on board with you for most the entire thing, but the one that I disagree with you the most on was probably the Smoker one,
Yeah.
and
No one agrees with me on the smoker one. It's so rare I find someone to agree with me on the smoker one.
I'm at one point I was a big advocate for Tashigi joining simply because beginning of the series we met up with her and she gave that typical this is going to be a main character kind of spiel. She gave her dream, she gave like a clear dedication towards that dream, and she was introduced pretty much out of nowhere. Honestly, wholeheartedly, I actually did believe that Tashigi would join the crew at one point. But it's not about Tashigi, not about Smoker right now, even though it did hurt my soul a bit to hear that Smoker was a likely outcome in your mind. Uh
It was a bit okay. Like I gave them all grades. I gave Smoker like an A plus because he's my favorite pick. Not
yeah.
because I do genuinely believe he's gonna join, but I'm not genuinely trying to say that Smoker is the clear runaway definite choice
Oh
way
yeah,
ahead
yeah,
of
yeah, yeah.
everybody else. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like when it comes to the new crew member discussion, that kind of does get lost in, I don't want to say translation, but kind of gets lost in interpretation where you throw out your favorite candidate and a lot of people interpret that as, this is the 100% most likely person who's going to join. And
Yeah.
and I feel like that gets lost in discussion within the community, and it kind of hurts. It really does. But let's talk about my least favorite candidate to join, Carrot. And since Yamato's declaration of joining the crew, I know you talked on it a bit, but since Yamato's declaration of I'm gonna go out to sea with Luffy versus the community's expectation of Carrot, which, by the way, I blame Rogers Base for heavily for the Carrot supporters. He came out
His
of
base has got something going on because first he was on the Mammoth Boys train, and then he was on the Carrot train. So I'm not saying anything, but I'm just saying if
yeah,
you
I'm
wanted Luffy to have like a literal snake form, I'm not saying anything. But
man. But yeah, the community was at one point was 100% on board with Carrot joining. Personally, I never saw the potential for Carrot. I never saw what she could bring to the crew. Not to sound disrespectful to the Carrot community, in my opinion, she was just a female Chopper, but she had Electro. Chopper has a timed power up form that he can use for a minimal amount of time, and once he exhausts it, it does put him in a near useless state. Excuse me. But when it comes to Chopper, he has the advantage of he already has multiple forms that he can switch between on the fly, by the way. And the another upside is his his top tier form that he can transform into. It's not solely dependent on the full moon. And that's kind of where I fell off with Carrot. And I know I've heard a lot of arguments for Carrot, but I just never got on board with it. I'm not sure like what your opinion is fully, but I'm gonna give you the floor and you can go ahead.
So, dude, Carrot. I mean, I've definitely gone back and forth. So, fun fact, like, I mean, you just mentioned that I was big on Reddit for like a long while, right?
Yeah.
So for the longest time, I was a heavily anti-Carrot on Reddit. Like before my channel really had any traction, or maybe even before I started my channel, I was super duper anti-Carrot joining.
Yeah.
I thought that she was like a really, I don't know, like bare bones character. There's really just not, there was very, very little to her. It was kind of just, she was there. She was a girl. People liked the fact that she was a girl who could fight. They were like, well, technically she checks off a lot of boxes. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm willing to acknowledge that.
It's in a very shallow way, I guess. Like we have so little actual in-depth story focus on Carrot that throughout Whole Cake Island I had like a really hard time believing that like, oh, Oda's actually setting her up to join. My opinion during Whole Cake Island, like it's funny you brought up Chopper because I think during Whole Cake Island, right, what we got a lot of the plot lines split up, right? So Luffy and Nami went one way, Sanji's off on his own with Germa and everything like that. And Brook gets to tag team with Pedro. Everyone has their own individual missions.
Mm-hmm.
So Oda usually likes to have characters bounce off of other characters. So, you know, Luffy and Nami, that makes for one solid storyline. Brook and Pedro, that can be another storyline. So during Whole Cake Island, I believe that Carrot was only there because Oda needed someone to pair Chopper with. Because you can't just have Chopper as a solo character running around doing the Mirror World stuff. He needed a sidekick. And it's interesting that like Chopper usually actually plays the sidekick role to a lot of other characters. So when Chopper needs a sidekick, then Oda has to write in an even younger, even more naive character because Chopper is normally the more young, naive character. Like Chopper will be paired with Usopp or with Nami or with Zoro or something like that. So now for the first time, Chopper's kind of getting to take the lead in a storyline. So then he got a sidekick in Carrot. And I think that made sense for a lot of Whole Cake Island. And I thought that was why Oda wrote Carrot in like that. But then Carrot got the Pedro stuff, right? So then she got the Pedro stuff. So Pedro died. We actually did get a little bit of insight into, you know,
like their backstory and their relationship.
Yeah, a little bit. And I think that, like, I'm not going to say that, oh, that's enough that suddenly, like, now Carrot's going to join the crew or anything like that. But
it did
like it. Yeah.
It did give her some kind of a chance, and I'm willing to acknowledge that. My stance, and first off, Nux Taku in the chat. Holy shit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
my God, that was quick.
Yeah, Morj. Thank you for the retweet, bro.
I don't know. I didn't see your tweet, so I just had to go and tweet it myself.
I don't know why the tweet didn't pop up, but Jesus, yo, bro, thank you. That came. That kind of shocked me. She's sweet Ziad. How's everybody doing? But with Carrot, throughout Whole Cake Island, at first my mindset was a lot like yours. You know, Chopper needed someone to bounce off. That admiration from Carrot kind of elevated Chopper in a role that we really haven't seen him in. But when it came to Carrot's potential and why she was there, it wasn't just because of Chopper. I think it was because we needed some way to showcase what the Minks were capable of outside of Inuarashi and Nekomamushi. Because if we showcased the Sulong during the Jack fight, I don't think it would have been what's the word I'm looking for? I don't think it would have been a good way to showcase it, seeing as how in the end they did lose. Granted, it was due to the poison gas, but they did lose. And once we actually got to see what that power up is, even no matter how they ended up losing, the fact that they lost would have brought Sulong down in terms of how good of a power up it is. And when it comes to Pedro, because I have had people ask me, then why didn't Oda showcase it with Pedro? Because if Pedro used his Sulong and he went up against Sparrow and still ended up blowing himself up, it would have seemed like the Sulong transformation wasn't enough to help Pedro deal with one person who in the community's eyes isn't even all that like powerful in terms of the upper echelons of Big Mom's crew. So having Carrot do it, we not only got the Straw Hats out of a serious jam, it showcased the potential in what Sulong could do, and it made it seem incredibly useful, seeing as how it propelled the Straw Hats that much further away from Big Mom's entire fleet.
I think overall, so the way I'm looking at it, also based on the points that you just brought up, so I would agree that, like, on the one hand, you could kind of look at it like, yeah, so Carrot helps us throughout Whole Cake Island. One, she showcases Sulong beforehand, right, and gives us a good depiction of Sulong. Two, she provides a character for Chopper to bounce off of. So provides another, she provides another pillar of support for, like, one of the storylines that Oda wants to have throughout Whole Cake Island. And then three, I guess you could say that, like, she gives some more context to Pedro and where Pedro's coming from when Pedro does his sacrifice. So, like, there's lots of logistical reasons that you could have Carrot in that arc that have nothing to do with her being a crewmate, right?
Yeah, so she was that emotional. She was that emotional anchor for a lot of us. Because imagine if Pedro just died, and yeah, we did get to know him, but knowing someone for how long was it that they were with Pedro? About a week or two. Knowing someone for that long and then having them die, and then having Sanji break down in tears the same way that Carrot did, feel like that would have been a little, like, I guess you could say, insufficient.
No,
Carrot was that emotional tie.
There. Yeah, but then the thing is, so, like, you can say that, okay, it was just because of these logistical reasons and such, but then there is still that lingering possibility, I suppose, that, like, Pedro did pass on this goal of, like, the dawn of the world, helping the Straw Hats. Well, it's arguable whether or not he passed that on. But then the other fact is that she is getting a lot of screen time still with the crew, at least during the early parts of the Onigashima battle. So I'm not writing her off. So I'm not going to be, like, betting my money on her as the winning horse for joining the crew.
Absolutely not.
She hasn't done that much recently. But she does keep coming back. Like, remember throughout Act 1 and Act 2 of Wano, she wasn't there at all. But then Act 3 of Wano, suddenly, like, she's getting into these double-page spreads with the crew. She's with Nami and Big Mom and stuff throughout the early parts of Act 3. So, I don't know. I think the possibility is there. And Oda hasn't forgotten her little, like, vendetta against Pero Sparrow or anything like that. He even wrote that in. So, I don't know. I'm not going to say that she's going to join the crew. I think her joining the crew literally only makes sense if the raid fails and then there's a second half to the arc. Because right now, I can't imagine Wano. Like, there's just no time. There's no time to flesh out a character like her. Like, if this is the end of the arc and this is the final battle, there's no time to flesh out a character like Carrot and make her a Straw Hat. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I 100% agree with you. And since we are, like, running low on time, that is a good way to segue into the next topic.
That for you.
Yeah, thank you. It's a good way to segue into the next topic that we have, and that's the raid failing. Do you still believe it? And how everything will progress. Excuse me. How everything will progress. God, what is wrong with me today? How everything will progress and the end of Wano. And again, this does still tie into, I guess you could still say it ties into the next crew member, because in all honesty, I'm still a huge supporter of Yamato, and the one that I get the most flack for is Momonosuke. And
I'm down for Momonosuke. That's actually my pick.
You have no idea how much that warms my heart.
Yeah, let it be known. Morj Silver supports Smoker and Momonosuke.
Whoa. Wrong half of that duo, bro. But yeah, end of one. I'm raid failing. I am on board with you on the raid failing in a sort of way, because I feel like how a lot of people interpret when you say the raid will fail is that the island's gonna fall in. Onigashima is gonna fall into the flower capital. Everyone's going to be separated from the current fights that they're in, and pretty much the entire like setup of Onigashima is going to restart. That's where I disagree. The way that I see it happening is, I guess the best comparison that I could give is I'm not sure if you've watched Naruto.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've read it all the way through the end. I watched the first part of it.
That okay, so you did the good part. You did the better. You did the best thing. When Madara dropped the meteor on the Shinobi Alliance, everyone, there were some people taken out, but there were still people, but the main players were still where they needed to be. Even though the fight pretty much ended there, I feel like it's going to be somewhat like that. And when it comes to how the island will fall, I do think the island is going to fall into Wano, but I don't believe that it's going to fall into the Flower Capital. With Momonosuke off of Onigashima, the one thing that I'm hoping and expect him to walk away from the Wano arc with is him at least learning how to control the clouds that he has. If he doesn't fly Luffy back up into Onigashima before it falls to be in front of Kaido standing with Yamato and possibly even Zoro, Sanji, and Jinbei, which is who I expect to have Luffy's back in that last like stretch of the fight against Kaido. I expect Momonosuke to be literally on the ground in Wano and catch Onigashima, not to the point where he's lifting it back up and placing it back in the ocean, but holding it just long enough to move it away from the Flower Capital and either land it in the prisons or on all of those factories that the citizens of Wano hate so much. That's the one thing that I will be absolutely satisfied with when it comes to Momonosuke going like towards the end of this arc. And obviously I still do believe that he is going to join the Straw Hats because I don't believe that he's qualified enough to be the Shogun. A lot of people like to compare him to Vivi in that he needs to be here to help rebuild his country. Momonosuke doesn't know what the country was like during its fall and during its bad times. The one person that I do think is qualified to be the Shogun and another bloodline of the Kozuki is his sister Hiyori. She's old enough. She's been through Wano in its worst of times, and she knows how to deal with the scum of Wano. Hell, we've seen that she's been dealing with the scum of Wano and giving back the money to the citizens. So that's how I think most of it's gonna progress. Big Mom, I think, is going to, when Kaido's on his last leg and reaching out for a helping hand, she's going to just 100%. You've served your purpose. I'm done with you. I have a way to read the poneglyphs. I'm going after Nico Robin. If the Straw Hats don't celebrate in Wano, they're going to celebrate on some random island or on their way to whatever next island we head to. Yeah. And Big Mom is going to pursue. And that's how I think Big Mom is going to go down at.
So, going through that basically.
I know it was a lot. I'm sorry.
No, I'm on board with you with all the Momonosuke stuff. I definitely agree with him stopping the island from falling. I don't think he's gonna fly it back to the sea either.
Oh no, it's just like a struggle to hold it up and then drop it, and it's still gonna cause a mass like big devastation. Yeah, just not in the Flower Capital, just off to the side somewhere else.
So I mean, I guess that's my only difference, which is basically like, I think Momonosuke will stop the island from falling, because I believe the raid will fail in the sense more so that there will be a sort of soft reset for the arc. I think a lot of the Scabbard storylines may kind of be. And I'm not saying they're gonna die.
Oh yeah.
Whatever, right? Like I don't know necessarily. I don't even know if Kiku's dead yet. I kind of like to believe that Kiku is dead, but I'm not even gonna pretend I'm confident in that.
My whole thing about going up against one emperor in itself is that just to show the severity of it, we needed to have at least either 2 Scabbards die or just Kinemon, given how emotionally attached, at least I was.
No, Kinemon counts for more. He's my favorite Scabbard by far at this point.
And as of right now, the way it seems that Oda is setting it up is he didn't just kill Kinemon and he didn't just kill 2 Scabbards. He killed 2 Scabbards and Kinemon.
Yeah, I hope that is the case. I think Kinemon could still get a bit of a chapter dedicated to him or something like that as he passes on or whatever. But
I would still like for him to see Kaido actually going down.
Yeah, I don't know if he will though, because
if the island falls, and he's like that,
My belief is that if Momonosuke holds up the island, the point would be basically to to give the citizens of Wano in the flower capital time to evacuate.
Yeah.
So that's where so I think that the scene can still happen, that Momonosuke stops it from falling, and it can still be a very powerful moment for him, and it can mean something and have a very positive effect by like, and shows leadership by like carrying the weight so that all of his people can escape. And then I believe that the act still ends with Kaido defeating Luffy and the island ultimately having to come down. So that is what I'm thinking. I do think that if Act 3 were to end with the defeat of the Straw Hat Alliance, then it would end with Onigashima in the center of Wano, because that is a powerful visual symbol of the victory of the Beast Pirates, essentially. Beyond that, I don't think that Big Mom leaves this arc for Elbaf. I just think that, I mean, there's two sides to it in my mind. One is basically, I think that within the story, there's been so much talk of how Big Mom will be defeated with Kaido this arc. And I do think that that was what most of this saga was kind of leading to, where you can go back to like Zoe, and they're talking about Kaido and Big Mom being the two problems. You can look at what the Marines were talking about, how like Kaido and Big Mom are like there's been a lot of pairing of Kaido and Big Mom as the two big problems that have been kind of hounding the Straw Hats since they entered the New World. Literally since they entered the New World, right? So starting with Fishman Island, then Punk Hazard was Kaido, then Dressrosa, they were both after them. Zoe, they're both after them. So to me, I do think that their storylines were pretty intertwined, and I think that a big plot purpose of Whole Cake Island was to force Big Mom's storyline to join with the Kaido storyline by having her chase Luffy. So I do think it would be like just the amount of times that they've been talking about, this is the point where Big Mom comes down, we came here to defeat both of you, etc. The fact that Wano is the culmination to such a long-running series of events, I do think it's much more dramatically powerful to have everything basically climax with those two big threats that they've been dealing with throughout the New World in one go here. Because no matter what, just flow-wise, Elbaf is going to be a smaller arc than this one. It can't be bigger than this one.
No, there's no way Elbaf is going to be bigger than Wano, chapter-wise or just
setup-wise,
series of events.
So it's just a much more powerful climax. I think that just the way things have been set up and building towards that section of the story concludes with a exclamation point here, and two Yonko are defeated. Then we get this big victory with Kaido, but then we get another but then it's only really 70-60% done, and they still got to deal with Big Mom afterwards in a weird it's just a weird series of events sort of in my mind, in terms of how you're having the plot kind of peak, or the dramatic events peak, but then not actually conclude there and then kind of trail off into Elbaf. So that's why I've always felt that Elbaf is the start of a new section of the story, where now they're trying to get the final road poneglyph, then get to Raftel, and then get the final war. So it's another sort of increasing progression of sort of stakes, I guess.
Yeah. A little off topic, because I know we're running short on time.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, it's fine. Little off topic. What is your opinion on the people who believe that Big Mom not remembering that she ate Mother Caramel and possibly some of the kids, because, the theory about CP0 resembling a lot of the kids that she grew up with. What are your opinions to the people that that believe that her not remembering that is some type of sickness? Her mental state is a sickness. Do you believe it's more of a sickness, or is it just the way that she was raised? Because in all honesty, I'm more on the side that it's the way she was raised. There is no she can be cured or fixed. It's not that she doesn't remember eating Mother Caramel. It's the fact that when she was in such a euphoric state that she didn't notice. Even if she has full memory of that day, she's still not going to remember grabbing Mother Caramel and shoving her down her gullet.
So to me, basically, I agree with your interpretation, but because Oda has surprised me with how he chooses to write a lot of Big Mom's stuff so far, I guess I'll just say stuff so far, there are still things that happen with Big Mom that I don't feel are particularly hinted at beforehand well, or necessarily set up. There's a difference between I don't want to get into that whole mother mode thing, but I'll just say
Yeah,
that there's a
that
difference between like something technically not being inconsistent with what we've been shown earlier versus something being definitively set up for a twist that makes sense. Um,
I think I was
so
a little bit more on board with the mother mode than most people, but it still kind of upset me.
I don't know.
Like
Mother mode is
highly.
one thing among, I guess, many things that have happened with Big Mom that to me, I've just kind of just decided that I'm not gonna pretend like I can predict what Oda's wants to do with Big Mom exactly. The one thing is I do believe she will be defeated. That's all I can say. I don't think she's being set up as an ally,
Oh,
as I've
absolutely
seen some
not.
people talk about. So I don't think that's happening. But beyond that, I don't know what dude, like if Oda wanted to say, oh, Big Mom actually can remember, if you like trigger something in her memory or something like that, then she can remember the events of that day despite being in a, seemingly like out of body state and just like going blind with greed or gluttony or whatever. If he wanted to write that,
Yeah,
I don't
it's
know. I
it's
could see him just writing that. Like, so to me, I'm
it's
like,
in the
no, logically it
cards.
doesn't make sense from what was written. But if he wants to say that's the way it is, then that's the way it is.
Yeah, it's in the
So,
cards.
yeah.
It's in the cards. I don't see it as an impossibility.
Mhm.
And the wild thing is, I actually do agree with you. You actually starting to bring me around to the side of Big Mom maybe going down in Wano. I just personally, I would just like it for Big Mom to go to be taken out in the country that she not only
Mhm.
grew up but probably hates her more than anybody else in the entire world. And
Mhm.
in all honesty, it I like those points in stories where
Mhm.
where where the location has some type of emotional or like actual tie to the character
Mhm.
that's being defeated. But we kind of went over next arc predictions, but
Mhm.
in between Elbaf, because you said, I know you just said that Elbaf is not going to be a large arc, is, and I agree with you. It's not going to be on the scale of Wano.
Mhm.
It characters, events, or just all out scale. Do you think it'll be more of a Zoe type of arc where we get a lot of exposition, especially seeing as how one of our captains in the Grand Fleet is the captain of the main crew that comes from Elbaf. You know,
Mhm.
because Dory and Brogy used to be the captains of the crew that that Hydrogen is now like the sole captain of. And we have
Mhm.
two giants on there. One of them has a tie to Big Mom, and another one is one that we even met in Saboti, if I'm not mistaken, Staunton. Yeah, the giant that Rayleigh
Yeah.
saved
Yeah. Yeah.
from the auction
Yeah. Yeah.
house. So, do you
Mhm.
think it's gonna be more of a Zoe type of arc where we get a lot of exposition, or is it gonna be more of like a mini antagonist arc? And I know a lot of people don't like this arc, but Long Ring Long Land. Like we have some type
Mhm.
of antagonist, but it's not a major thing. It's not something that really need to put all of our effort into, especially seeing as how that Loki is like a character literally shrouded in mystery. All we've seen of him is a black blob.
Yeah. So I did. This was one of my earliest videos. I talked about Shanks and Elbaf, and I think that I have said that I think that Elbaf is when they meet the red-haired pirates,
I
and
cannot wait for that.
it would not be
Cannot
quite
wait.
like Zoe, but it would be like Long Ring because I do think that it would be the Davy back fight between them and the red-haired pirates. So I suggest watching that video if you got time. Watch it on double speed or something like that. I think
Bro,
it's one of my best
I
videos.
will put that video on as
Sorry
soon
for
as this is
plugging my
over.
own stuff, but yeah.
hey, hey, if you haven't subscribed to Mr. Morj already, but you're on this channel, something is wrong with you, and you need to have your priorities together. Morj makes amazing content. Go subscribe.
Thanks, man. But yeah, I mean, I'll give you the gist of it, which is basically I do think that basically Elbaf post Wano will be a more like there'll still be action. It
Yeah,
would just be
absolutely.
between the Straw Hats and the red-haired pirates, and this would be the meeting ground for them to for Luffy to finally fulfill his deal with Shanks and meet him again as a great pirate. Because by the end of Wano, Luffy will be a great pirate, right? Like
Yeah,
by
and
all accounts, like Luffy, he's got that Conqueror's Haki and everything going. He's already got the silhouettes of Roger and Whitebeard and all
Odin
those
and
guys popping up behind.
everybody
Yeah.
is giving,
So
and Zebek at that point.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
Zebek
on
was
top
there
of that,
too.
like yeah, there's a back for it's a back. which is wild. But I mean, and then Usopp and his father, that provides for a great arc for Usopp, like a great starting point, because we all expect Elbaf to be Usopp's arc. So running into his father there would be a great point that we could work around with an Usopp storyline.
I'm a big Gunner fan in any story, and Usopp early on had to be one of my favorite characters, especially because, well, aside from Zoro, because at the time I got into One Piece, swordsmen were like really far in between in a lot of series. Trunks was my favorite one at the time, but
Yeah.
gunmen I feel like in anime do not get enough love.
Yeah.
And Usopp finally getting his penultimate arc, and at the same time coming across his father kinda like, it gets me excited. One of the things that I'm still a little upset we didn't get more of are bounty hunters, and part of me still hopes that Sniper Island it exists and it's a bounty hunter's nest. But yeah, I agree with you. And Luffy meeting up with Shanks at that point kind of makes sense, because following the defeat of 2 emperors, and then you know, coming across Shanks and having a Davy back fight, it would really go a long way showing, like, is Luffy really ready to 1v1 an Emperor? Even if Shanks is at 100 and Luffy's at 95, is he ready to make that next step and face off against Blackbeard?
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned that, because that was one of the things that, like, I think that Elbaf will likely be about, just thematically, which is, you know, it's always been hyped as like this island about proving yourself, like, as a warrior, essentially. So I like the idea that it's essentially a proving ground for the Straw Hats. So for
That's
Luffy,
the Viking
for
code.
Usopp,
That's the Viking code. Prove yourself as a warrior. Die in battle. If you die in your sleep, that's eternal damnation. Battle, like, death before dishonor.
Yeah. Oh, also, fun fact, I found this out much later, which was like Shanks has a Viking ship.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
You might know that, but like,
his figurehead. Oh,
got a Viking ship.
I have my Shanks figure all the way up there, and I do have Shanks' ship. It's in my closet. I just don't have anywhere to display it. But
yeah, look at it. The Red Force is a
it's a Viking ship. It has the Viking dragon head on the front. And it does make sense. I actually do remember you saying something about Viking inspiration in one of your videos. I cannot remember which one it was. But
yeah.
But it is. We've hit the time limit. I'm gonna get some sleep. Morj, I know you have some things to do. Thank you to everybody who's in the chat. I know this one ran kind of short, and I didn't really pay attention to the chat all that much. But Straw Hat ranking stream tomorrow. It's gonna get toxic. Come by, say hi, talk some shit. Morj, thank you for coming through. Anytime,
no problem, man.
Anytime I'm streaming and you feel like you want to join the discussion, hop on in. You're always welcome. Thank you for coming through. Again, thank you to everybody in the chat. Thank you to everybody who subscribed. See you later.